car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
And welcome to the Frontier Motors Show. We are pleased to have the owner of that fine establishment here in the studio, ready, willing, and certainly more than able to take any phone inquiries from you should you like to get the price of a car or a truck or an SUV that you are thinking of buying or selling or trading in. Give us a call, 478-3116, and you will be connected as if by magic to Ivan Struckel. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for the introduction. And once again, we have our double format, which means that we are on WCOA Radio, 1370 AM, the oldest radio talk show station in Pensacola. And we've been doing this show going on 19 years. We are also videotaping this for our Blab TV customers. And for anybody that's watching this, this is... Even though I'm alive, this is not a live show, so you don't bother calling in if you're watching this on TV. But if you're listening to this on 1370 AM, you can join us. This is a call-in show, and what we do is we help you with values. If you're thinking of selling your car, perhaps you're going to put on Craigslist or AutoTrader, Cars.com, who knows, maybe even eBay. You might want to find out, what should I sell that car for? And I'm not talking about values that you get on the internet. You don't need me for that. I'm talking about what I consider real values. That's 478-3116, 478-3116. And the way we get those real values is three different ways. The first thing we use is an NADA guidebook. And this guidebook that I'm holding up right now is not the same guidebook as you're going to see online. There is a consumer's version. We use an official version, and it's a little bit different. Sometimes the numbers are very similar. Sometimes they're as much as $1,000 apart. The reason we use the version that we use is because our credit unions and our banks and a lot of our insurance companies in our area use the NADA guidebook. The other thing we use is we use a black wholesale guidebook. And the wholesale guidebook is what the auctions, they compile all the black books. These are printed out every 2 weeks, and it gives me an idea of what the wholesale value is of a car, and a rough wholesale, average wholesale, and clean wholesale. Car dealerships don't like to show you this book because it's supposed to be a Bible of what they would pay for a car if it was at auction. The third thing we do is we go right into the Manheim auction reports, which I consider the real values, which means that if you have a 2014 Lexus ES350 and the retail book on that car is $35,000, well, if they're going through the auction for $28,000, the retail book is too high. In other words, a dealer would love to buy the car for $28,000 at the auction and sell it for $35,000 retail. But with this competitive market, you're not going to get away from that. The average dealership makes about $1,500 to $1,600 on a used car nationwide. Some dealerships make a little bit more, some a little less, depending on, of course, the type of car that we sell. They expect to make more on a $50,000 car they would if they sold a $6,000 car. But the average is about $1,500 or $1,600. So if the book value of that Lexus is $28,000, I would quote you a sell price of somewhere around the $31,500 range after I pay expenses, after I get the car detailed, do the oil change and everything else. I would give you a price of somewhere around that $31,500 range, even though the retail book is $31,000 to $31,500, even though the retail book is $35,000. So again, if you were to go by what the banker were to say, using the retail guidebook, you'd be paying way too much. There's also the other exception to the rule is that if you, and I'll give you an example, a Jeep Wrangler. If you've got a 2004 Jeep Wrangler and the NADA guidebook says it's worth $6,500, you can throw this guidebook in the trash because they're selling for quite a bit over those figures. So if you had a vehicle like that and you were going to sell it and the retail is $6,500, you would not be asking enough. And that's one of the reasons that we urge you to take advantage of our free appraisal at Frontier Motors. And you can join us here on the show at 478-3116, or you can stop by at 230 Beverly Parkway. And if you've got a car and you want to sell it yourself, bring it by to us. Let us spend about 5 or 10 minutes with you. And what we're going to do is we're going to drive the car around the block. We're going to scan the ID number. Everything's done by smartphones these days. What we do is we scan the ID number, and it'll automatically put it into our system. It'll give us the history reports on the car. It'll give us the NADA book that we talked about. It'll give us the black wholesale guidebook that we talked about. It also gets us the auction reports that we talked about. And it also tells me what, it defaults to within 150 miles, and tells me what every car like that is selling for within 150 miles. And if there's not available, I did one the other day. We bought a 2012 LS460 from a private individual, and I wanted to see, well, what are the other people asking for this car? So I plugged in 2012. Actually, I scanned the ID number. I plugged it in. I found out it had a clean history report. It's a one-owner car. It's never been in an accident. And I found out there's not one available within 150 miles. So then what I did is I plugged in 500 miles. Well, within 500 miles, there were 8 of them available. And that helped me get an idea of what the competition is selling that car for, because my job at Frontier Motors is to try to buy the vehicle where I can give you enough money if you're the seller that you'll be happy with what I give you, but yet also that I can beat the competition and still make a profit. That doesn't always work. There's a lot of times where the private individual wants too much money for the car, or if he doesn't want too much money, that it needs too much work. And if the vehicle is going to take $2,000 or $3,000 worth of reconditioning, if I were to even mess with that car, obviously I would need to reduce the value of that car by that dollar amount. And a lot of people say, well, I can't afford to take that, but yet they can't afford to put the money into it to fix it up. And maybe that's one of the reasons they're selling it themselves. I think a lot of times a private individual, when they sell their own car, can get away with a lot more than a dealer can. In other words, I've seen private individuals, because I know this from them bringing me the vehicles after they have been sold, but they'll have a cracked windshield, the tires will be bald, the back windows don't work, and it's got a funky smell on the inside. And here they are trying to sell it. And sometimes they get lucky, and somebody buys it like that. But usually what happens is that I know one thing that happens when I buy that car from the private individual, I'm going to make sure that when I get the car ready for the lot, number one, that it doesn't smell, number two, that the back windows work, number three, that the windshield's been replaced, and that the vehicle has no objections. In other words, when you test drive that car, you're not going to come back and say, well, hey, I haven't, this and this and this and this doesn't work. To me, that would be very embarrassing. We pride ourselves in making sure that when we put a car on the lot, that the vehicle is ready to go. Now, when you have 370 cars in inventory, every once in a while one slips through the cracks. We do the best that we can. But you're not going to find things like check engine lights on. You're not going to find cars that are out of gas, that the first thing you've got to do when you purchase the vehicle is drive it to the gas station. We're going to make sure that the maintenance has been done. We're going to do a safety check on the car, make sure all the lights work on the car, and that everything on that car is in good running condition. I'm not saying something can't break afterwards, but I'm just talking about when you start your life off with that car, that there's not going to be any issues on the car. That takes a lot of work when you're selling between 50 and 60 cars a week. So what we do is we get them in, we set them up, we put them on the lot, and a lot of people ask me, well, is your website up to date? Yes, it is, as up to date as can be. I noticed this morning we had about 13 cars that we purchased since Friday that don't have prices on them. And we pride ourselves in making sure that we would put a price on every car. And those cars this afternoon will have prices. So out of 370 cars, there might be 13 without prices, but the website is up to date. Once we sell a car, for example, if we sell a car today, it might be 24 to 48 hours before that car drops off of the inventory. And a lot of people get frustrated at some dealerships because they'll have a car they have listed on their inventory. It was sold 3 weeks ago. We don't do that. We pull those cars off immediately because we don't want to make it seem like we've got 370 cars if we only have 300 cars and the other 70 cars are already delivered. So we get that website up to date. The other things that we do at Frontier Motors, we give you a free advice on anything that has to do with selling or the purchase of a car. We've got people coming in and they're asking us things like, for example, I just had a total loss. Somebody plowed into my car and they're going to total the car. What should I get from the insurance company? So what we do is we do an official appraisal, and I sign it. And I think I'm the only one that I know of in Pensacola that will sign an appraisal. You can probably get an appraisal at any dealership, but they won't put their name on it because they don't want to have to go to court or be litigated. So what we do is we don't care about that. I'll give you an official appraisal. I'll staple my card to it, and I'll sign it so that you can go back to the insurance company and say, hey, I talked to Frontier Motors, and they feel that you should pay me retail for the car plus the taxes, plus the tax transfer. So we put that in writing for you to make sure that you get ample money from the insurance company. And sometimes, one of the reasons that we do this, of course, because you never know, maybe we had that twin car that you just totaled on the lot. And I had this happen a couple of months ago where a customer had totaled a Sport Track. And he said, as soon as I get my money, I noticed you've got a Sport Track. It's a little bit newer than one I had, but I had mine paid for. When I get that money, I'm going to put that money down on yours because I like the vehicle, and I'm going to get another one. The other thing we can help you also with is if you've got an accident that wasn't your fault, you're going to have what we call diminished value. In other words, the value of your vehicle now has been compromised. If you're driving and let's use the extreme example. I drove on Friday, we took in a $75,000 Corvette. We took it in trade on a Porsche Boxer. We actually gave the guy money back because the Corvette was worth a little bit more than the Boxer. But let's just say hypothetically that the vehicle on this Corvette had an accident reported on Carfax or AutoCheck, which are the two leading history report providers in the nation. And let's say that they had an accident that says major damage reported, airbags deployed, vehicle had to be towed. And they won't tell you the dollar amount of the damage, but if it says major damage on a $75,000 car, I'm assuming it's going to be in the $20,000 or $30,000 range. Now, the next question is, if that's your car, what does it do to the value? Well, that's a pretty extreme example that I'm using. And I would say that if they put that car back together, which they're going to, because it's not, I think most insurance companies use like 90 or 95% value as far as totaling the car. So even if you have a vehicle that's got 85% damage, which is a lot. Heck, well, I don't have my calculator, but $75,000, 85%, that's got to be like $65,000 worth of damage, and they might still put that car back together. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine wanting that car back after they put $65,000 in repairs? I don't think I'd want it back, but I don't think that you can force them to total the car. But you can force them to pay you diminished value if the accident wasn't your fault. So if somebody slams into you, and my opinion, when we talk about diminished value at Frontier Motors, by the way, we put this in writing for you so you can go back to the insurance company or go to court and say, hey, I want more money from this car. And I would say that my opinion is this vehicle's got to sell somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000 less because of the diminished value. Now, there are some cars that have no diminished value even if you have an accident. I had a customer come in and the car was like 13 years old, had 150,000 miles on it. And because the value of the car was only $2,000, he had $1,000 worth of damage. He came in for a diminished value letter, and I told him, hey, as far as my opinion, I'm not sure what reality is, but my opinion is there is no diminished value. So you can shop. And a lot of people, they come in with the intention of going to more than one dealership. Some of them don't. If they're repeat buyers and they know that we're going to make a profit, but we're not going to rip them off, they might buy right on the spot. But the majority of people want to check around a little bit. And of course, it would not be a benefit to us if we're the first place that you came. It's a disadvantage to us. But we really don't care if you come see us first or come see us last. It doesn't really matter to us. What we're going to do is if you want to shop around, we're going to give you a worksheet that has the bottom line price in writing. Now, that's after the discount. That's after your trade value, after taxes, after the doc fee, after your payoff. Everything's going to be on there. We're going to circle the dollar amount that you're going to either write a check for if you're paying cash or what you're going to go and ask for from your bank or credit union at the bottom line. Of course, we can help you with financing too, but that's a whole separate subject. I've seen so many customers come into Frontier Motors that say, I'm going to finance through my credit union. Next thing you know, they're financing through us because we can either meet or beat the credit union, and you can do the paperwork right there. So there's no messing around having to jump back and forth from one credit union to the other, shopping around for the best money. But that's a whole different subject. So what we do is we give you that out-the-door price. Now, I always urge you, folks, that if you take our price and go to another dealership, and let's say you're shopping used cars, and let's say you're looking at a 2010 Toyota Highlander, and I'm telling you my price is going to be $25,000 out the door, and it's got 28,000 miles on it. Well, at that point, let's say there's no trade-in, so it's a simple deal. So at that point, you go to the next dealership that has one. I can even tell you where they are because we can run that price driver program we talked about. I can tell you, hey, this dealer's got one, this dealer's got one, this dealer's got one. We'll send you over there. We'll give you directions on how to get there. Now, we only do this for one reason. I've got to be real confident that the pricing I gave you just now in writing is going to be the best deal. So I do my research before I give you that price to make sure that I know what the competition has. I know the color of their car. I know the miles and the equipment on the car. I already have run the Carfax on the car because sometimes if a major accident's been reported, you might want to scratch it off your list unless it's really, really cheap. And there's some times where I do find the car and say, well, wait a minute, this car is $3,000 less than mine. And I run the history report and I find out it has had a major accident. So that's the reason it's less expensive. And it should be less expensive. And I'm not telling you not to buy it. All I'm saying is if it's less expensive and that's more into your budget and you don't care about the fact it's been an accident, make sure you get the car inspected. Take it to somebody that knows what they're doing. Take it to a place like Bobby Likers, or if it's been an accident, go to one of the local body shops like West Florida Paint and Body. Pay them whatever they charge. Usually it's going to be somewhere between $50 and $100, which I think is a wise investment if you're spending thousands of dollars on a car. To get that pre-purchase inspection, just so you know what you're getting. Sometimes I snicker when I talk about accidents because if you had a major accident, let's say the car's 7 years old, you're going to have brand new parts in that 7-year-old car. You're going to have if it's got head-on collision, you're going to have a brand new air conditioner, brand new radio, brand new hoses, brand new this, and this. Everything's brand new. You would think that would make the value of that car go up if it's been an accident, not down. But I think it's the perception that an accident causes issues. And I think that started years and years ago when the body shops were doing everything by hand. None of them had laser tools. None of them had machines that straightened the body out the way it used to be. And I think with these days, with everything being digital, I think that when they put a car back together that's been in a major accident, they do a pretty darn good job. They do a really good job, and I don't think I would shy you away from a vehicle that's been in an accident. I would just urge you to make sure that you get inspected because you never really know who fixed the car. Frontier Motors has been in business for going 19 years now. We are the people that help you make a good car buying decision, whether it's from our dealership or not. If you found a car at another car dealership, we urge you to bring us the car. I don't care if the salesman's in the back seat. Come on over. I'm going to scan the ID number. I'm going to tell you what to pay. Don't tell me what they're asking. I don't want that to cloud my mind as far as me telling you it's a good deal or bad deal. What I'm going to tell you is if it's a 2010 Chevy Impala and it's got 25,000 miles on it, I can run the VIN on that. I can tell you both history reports, not just one. Some dealerships use AutoCheck. Some dealerships use Carfax. Frontier Motors use both of them because they're not always the same. It gives you different information. So we run both of them. So if you have that competitor's car and you bring it over to us, I'm going to tell you about what both history reports say. I'm going to tell you this is what I can sell you a car just like this for. So let's just say I can sell you that car for $12,000, and now you tell me, well, they're asking $15,500. I said, that's not a problem. Just tell them that you were at Frontier Motors, and they said that they can get a car like that, if I don't already have one on the lot, they can get a car like that for $12,000. So I would like you to bring your price down to $12,000, and I'll do business with you. Now, that's if you like the dealership, the salesperson, and the car. If you're really not sure, and I have a lot of people do this, that they're test driving the car, they like the car, but they really don't like the color. It's a black car with black leather interior, and they're okay with the deal. I'm telling you, it's a good deal. Let's say they're selling it for $12,000, but you really want a white one, and they don't have a white one. Well, at that point, what we do is we do a locate, and we give you that pricing. We tell you $12,000 is a good price, and if you don't like their color and I don't have one, I'm going to go buy you that white car. You don't sign anything. You don't give us a deposit. It's just a handshake that you'll pick up the car as long as it passes your inspection. That's going to be real important because people always say, well, if it passes my inspection as far as Frontier, no, not Frontier's inspection, your inspection. Because we might have different criteria of what we feel is a good car and a bad car. Now, we're very, very strict, and I have yet to lose a sale based on the condition of the car. Because that's the only reason you might not take delivery. If you already know you want a white Impala, you already know it's a 2012, it's got 25,000 miles on it, you already know it's $12,000, I already know you don't have a trade-in. If you're going to be financing, I'm going to tell you what the payments are. I'll give you a ballpark so you don't get shocked by the payments if you think they're $200 a month and they're $250. So we answer all the questions, and then we buy you the car. The only time there might be the exception to the rule if you want something weird. I had a customer 2 months ago that wanted a Mitsubishi i-MiEV, which is a Mitsubishi electric car, and he got upset because he heard the radio show, and I said, I want a $1,000 deposit. He said, well, you say you will do this on a handshake. I will. I'll give you the price on a handshake, but I'm not buying no electric car on a handshake. That's not selling at all. And so the customer got upset with me, and we ended up still buying that car. I said, okay, forget about that. I'll go ahead and buy the car anyway. So we went ahead and bought that i-MiEV without a deposit, but I'm just bringing that up because there are a lot of people who listen to the show, and we will do it on any normal car. Like if you come in, you want a Rolls Royce, I'm going to want a deposit. But if you come in, you say, I want a Chevy Impala, I want a 4Runner, Highlander, just any type of normal car, we do this just on a handshake because I'm going to be buying that car for our lot anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cater that locate to what you're looking for. So if you want a Tundra and I'm going to buy a black one for the lot, and you say, well, I want a white one, well, if I'm going to be buying a Tundra for the lot, I'm going to buy a white one. I've got a better chance of selling it to you if I get you the color that you want. We also ask other questions like what motor do you want, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, what color interior. I've had it already where I bought a Lexus for a customer. They wanted a white Lexus. Well, I bought one with black leather, and it comes back here, and it's got black leather. The guy says, I'm not taking it. I said, well, why not? Well, it's got black leather interior. I don't like black leather. Well, we were stupid enough not to ask him what color interior you want, so that doesn't happen anymore. So what we do now is we make sure that we get you the color that you want. And if we do buy you the wrong car, there's no hard feelings. Remember, you didn't sign a contract, you didn't give us a deposit, so we can't make you take a car. But we do this on a handshake, so I try to talk to as many people, or my sales manager will talk to you if you come in and do a locate, and we'll tell you, this is what we're going to find for you. Is that what you want? So, for example, if you've got to have heated and cool seats, I want to make sure I get you one with heated and cool seats if that's a deal breaker. If you say, well, I still take it without it, I just would prefer that, then if there's two of them there, of course, we would be buying the one that's got the heated and cool seats. As far as inventory, we are what I would consider the alternative to new. We have a lot of cars on the lot that have very low miles on it. And one of the cars, for example, that I'm using is that we've got a 2015 Hyundai Santa Fe. It's got 606 miles on it. So people, if you're going to be buying a brand new Hyundai, I always urge you to do the business down. Alan Turner's our local Hyundai dealer, so if you're going to buy a brand new one, I urge you to go to Alan Turner. They're right over here on 29, and make your best deal. Then look and see what our 15 with 600 miles is running for, and let's see how much we can save you. If it's only $1,000, I'm the first one to throw in the towel and say, hey, for $1,000 difference, I'd go buy the brand new one. But what if it's $3,000 or $4,000 difference? And what if I've got one with 600 miles on it for $4,000? You might say, hey, $4,000 is a lot of money. It's only got 600 miles on it. It's a white one, which is a color I liked, and you go ahead and make the deal. I've got the same thing with the Jeep Wrangler with 1,000 miles on it. I've got a Buick Regal with 1,000 miles on it. Excuse me. We have a Fiat 500L with 1,000 miles on it. I show up the Porsche Boxster, and this is what I was talking about. We sold that Boxster on Friday. It still hasn't come off the inventory. It'll be off the inventory tomorrow. That had 1,000 miles on it. A gentleman traded a Corvette with 3,000 miles on the Porsche Boxster. So if you're looking for a Stingray, new body style, Z51 in Laguna Blue Special Edition with 3,000 miles, we've got one at Frontier Motors. We also have an Equinox with 1,000 miles, a Honda Civic with 2,000 miles on it, a Buick Encore with 2,000. I can go on, giving you the idea that what we do is we have the alternative to new. So if you're going to price any new car, and I do try to talk you out of buying new because we want to takes advantage of somebody else's depreciation. I've got my consumers report list right here, and I'm going to use this on every show that we do because it's quite interesting that consumers reports says that the first year a brand new car has got an average selling price of $34,000. That's the average selling price of a new car. Now, there's a lot of them that are way more expensive than that. I mean, a new full-size pickup truck, a 150 even, Lariat, for example, is $50,000, so it's way over $34,000. Of course, a Chevy Spark at $14,000 is quite a bit under that. But the average new car price is $34,000. After 1 year, the average depreciation on that new car is 27%. That calculates into a $9,180 depreciation within 1 year. Why not have somebody else take that depreciation and you take advantage of that? So if I bought that car $9,100 cheaper, even if I marked it up $3,000, you'd still be saving $6,100. If I marked it up only $2,000, you'd be saving $7,100 by buying a 1-year-old car. And so when I look at my inventory of 1-year-old cars, even we probably have 60 1-year-old cars on the lot out of 360. If you plug in 2-year-old cars, we've got over 150 of them between 1 and 2-year-old cars. 150. Now, the rest of the cars that we have are cars that we've taken in trade on these like new cars. So we also always keep at least 50 to 60 cars in inventory that are under $10,000 to $12,000. So we also have less expensive stuff. Now, you start getting down to, I had a couple customers on Saturday there ask for $3,000 cars. Well, that's pretty dicey. We don't get too many $3,000 cars that pass inspection. But if you get up to $4,000 to $5,000, we try to keep as many as possible because we know that everybody can afford an average new car of $34,000. So they come in and say, well, what do you got for $5,000? So if the car passes inspection, we will go ahead and retail a $5,000 car. So when you drive by Frontier Motors, you might see the Lexus out front and the Porsche and all the flashy cars up front. But we've got 370 cars in inventory, and a lot of the vehicles that we have in inventory are under $10,000. I just want to bring that to your attention. After 2 years, the average car loses 37%. That's $12,500. So the first year it loses $9,200, but the year after it loses only another $3,600, and the year after that it loses $2,200. So it softens up a little bit, but after the third year depreciation of 46%, that's less than 50% of the value in 3 years. Now, why not have somebody else take that depreciation and you take advantage of that depreciation? The way that the gentleman justified trading the Corvette in for the Porsche, because he lost his butt on the Corvette. I mean, he probably lost $20,000 in a year. But the guy that owned the Porsche lost almost the same dollar amount. So he was able to justify a lateral move because he knew he was losing a bunch of money. but he also knew he was getting a bargain because somebody else did the depreciation. It's almost like same thing in the housing industry. You know, if you sell in a depression, you're not going to get a lot for your house, but the advantage is you're going to buy another house a lot cheaper than normal. Or if you go the opposite, if the market's real high and you're selling your house and you get good money for it, expect to pay a little bit more for the house that you're purchasing. And that is the same thing in the car industry, not that much difference. Consumers Reports is one of my favorite magazines that I read, and I always look at the different reports that they make. Some of them, like this one I have right here, are best values of cars, not necessarily the best reputation. But, for example, they say that in a small SUV, the Subaru Forester is the number one vehicle for the best value. After that, it's the Toyota RAV4, then the Honda CR-V, then the Mazda CX-5, then the Tucson, Hyundai, and the Kia Sportage, so on, all the way to the bottom. And I'm not going to tell you which the bottom is, but there are some bottom ones here that local dealers are selling these vehicles for a living, so I don't want to put a negative spin on anything. We've only got about 4 minutes left, so we want to let you know, again, that Frontier Motors gives you free advice. If you want to sell your car, we'll tell you where to list it, how much to list it for. We will give you a free history report. If you Google Carfax, a history report on Carfax is about $40. I'll do one for nothing. That way you can show it to your prospect when they come and look at your car. If you're going to put your car on Craigslist or AutoTraderCars.com, I'll tell you what to list it for. I'll tell you what to be careful about. I'll also give you the retail value in writing. If you can sell it for less than retail, you might end up being a hero. The other thing I'll do, if you bring the car to me, I can give you a buy bid on the car, and you might be pleasantly surprised that the bid I give you is going to be quite a bit over wholesale, but less than retail. If that dollar amount that I bid is not high enough, I can also always put it on consignment. I'll normally give you a little bit more on consignment because I don't have to write the check and tie up my cash. So it makes it a little bit easier where if I tell you I'll buy it for 10, but I'll put it on consignment for 11, a lot of people say, well, I'll take the 11 and take my chances. And if I sell it in 2 weeks and you get an extra $1,000, everybody's happy. But it still has to be a good deal for my prospective customer. I don't want to take a car on consignment and overprice it. So we're very picky that the car passes inspection on consignment and that the price makes sense for everybody involved. Frontier Motors, again, is 230 Beverly Parkway. If you Google Frontier Motors, we're going to be the first one that comes up. I had a customer call the other day asking for a particular car in inventory. He says, no, I see it right here. I see it right here. Well, the Frontier Motors they were talking about was in Oklahoma. So they hit the wrong button, and they hit the wrong dealership. Actually, it was a bank that we talked to. They wanted us to send over a buyer's order, but it was the wrong dealership. But we are the first one that shows up when you just plug in Frontier Motors, and that's 230 Beverly Parkway. We've got 31 detailed photographs on the website, and they're all going to have pricing unless I just bought them in the last 2 days. There's a little link to, you can leave your credit report if you want us, or leave your information so we can do a credit report and get you pre-approved, which is kind of a handy little thing if you're not sure how much you qualify for as far as a loan is concerned. Frontier Motors have been doing this for 19 years, giving people free advice in the Pensacola area. So stop by at 230 Beverly Parkway. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead.